and why these cows will benefit from an old method of farming being brought up to date by a champion racing driver. And what does biodynamic mean, and does it make good business sense? Well, yesterday, you might remember, Rob met former Formula One champion Jody Scheckter in his new career as an organic and biodynamic farmer over in Hampshire. So in the second of his special reports, Rob will be finding out what it's all about.
When you drive onto Laverstoke Park Farm, you have to stop and you have to disinfect the wheels of your car, and that's pretty much the same kind of foot and mouth precautions that you have to do at any farm anywhere in the country at the moment. But that's where the similarity ends, because this farm is one of the most unusual farms in Europe, possibly in the whole world. It practices organic and biodynamic farming. It's got more than 50 different types of crops and fruits growing here. There are more than a dozen different animals being bred here too. It has its own slaughterhouse, its own composting facilities, and there are more than 60 people working on this farm, when normally there'd be maybe 10 at the most. So I've come along to find out a bit more about what they're doing here and why. Organic is familiar enough, but biodynamic, well, that's a system that believes in boosting the biodiversity on the farm. In practice, that means encouraging a wide diversity from bacteria in the soil to crops and animals. At times it can get a bit mystical, with sowing seasons tied into the phases of the moon, but here at Laverstoke, it's treated in a practical way. Now, I told you to do everything on a grand scale here, and just take a look at this. This is the kind of tea bags that they have here at Laverstoke Park, but it's not being filled with tea. This is compost, and yes, this is a compost tea bag. It's all part of the biodynamic farming that goes on here, which hopefully Joel will explain. What do you do with all this then, Joel?
Basically, this is, as you said, a tea bag, and we fill the tea bag with compost. And basically here we have a big tank of water which is bubbling oxygen through that water. We just immerse the tea bag, as you would a cup of tea, down into the water, and to that tea we'll also add some different food sources for all of the beneficial microbes that are in the tea here. And we'll pour the food and the microbes into the tea, and what then happens is all of the beneficial bacteria and fungi and microorganisms in that compost, they will then grow in this solution here, and they'll multiply, and their population will double, exponentially. They'll double every 20 to 30 odd minutes.
And what do you do with it? You don't drink it, I presume?
No, that's right. Then this liquid soup of all of those beneficial microbes will be sprayed out into the fields, over the foliage, or put down into the soil to repopulate the soil and the leaf surfaces with those beneficial microorganisms.
So what kind of difference does it make? How much would it boost, say, the friendly bacteria, if you like?
Yes, it depends on the type of tea that you produce and how good that tea is. So there are different quality teas, and oxygen is a very important factor that influences the quality of that tea. If you have a good balance of food, a good balance of oxygen, then that tea will be very high numbers, and it will literally inject millions of organisms per milliliter of brew. So it really helps to repopulate those guys back into the soil system.
The farm has its own laboratory to investigate ways of improving the soil's health, with academics from all over the world working here. There are courses for other farmers keen to learn the techniques.
I grow blueberries, which hasn't been done before where I am, and I've got some problems with my plants, which I want to understand. And my plants need a fungal background, and I'm starting in a pasture. It's very interesting to learn that grassland is bacterial based in the soil, and my types of plants are going to be fungal based, so to shift it over to a fungal basis is interesting. And I've been able to bring some samples with me, and they've looked at them and analysed them, and we can see that the fungal activity is very low, and I'm trying to understand now why that is and what we can do to promote that and bring it up.
And inspired by all that research is another ambitious project at Laverstoke, its own huge composting site. 40,000 tonnes of waste are turned into fertiliser for the farm. It's taken from local councils and mixed with other ingredients like seaweed and even manure from a local zoo to produce a biodynamic mix. Like everything else here, the composting and the labs are the brainchild of Jody Scheckter, a former world champion racing driver turned farmer. He's now championing the cause of biodiversity.
This is part of the biodynamic and organic farming. It's for me, it's the heart of it, because if we're going to put anything on the land, you really want to put it on here, because if your biology is working, it holds it and then feeds it to the plant. If you put it on the ground, it just washes it away, or washes a lot of it away into your water supply, which is happening all over the place. In the biology, in organic farming or natural farming, the biology is the most important part. And if you say a handful of good soil has more living things than people on earth, and what you're trying to do, and that brings the nutrients from the soil into the plant. And we're trying to enhance that, get more and more, and get the right balance.
So that's the goodness in the soil taken care of, but tomorrow I'll be finding out what all that means for the fruit, for the crops and for the animals being produced here. And there too we'll be seeing some remarkable innovations.
We'll be looking forward to that one.